channel. It's Tyra here with another struggle review. Today we will be reviewing LoveCraft Country, episode 2, Whitey's on the Moon. Whitey's on, as soon as I saw Whitey's on the Moon, I didn't say like Whitey's on the Moon. I went, Whitey's on the Moon. And if you're familiar with Whitey's on the Moon, it's a song by Gil Scott-Heron. He does Whitey's on the Moon. He has many songs. My favorite, Home is Where the Hatred Is, and The Revolution Would Not Be Televised. So Whitey's on the Moon. There is so much to cover in this episode. I was like, wow, like this is a heavy episode to be episode 2. I can't really even fathom what an episode 10 would look like of love. Like, what is there left for you guys to do? It's so eventful in just episode 2. But before we get into that, I need you guys to go and subscribe. So I'm gonna wait. Go ahead. So now that we got all of that good stuff out of the way and you guys are subscribed to see more of me, let's get into this episode. We start off, surprisingly, with our characters in like shutter bliss. I mean, with the exception of Tick. Uncle George and Letitia are moving on up, apparently. We have the fish don't fry in the kitchen, beans don't burn on the grill. Just to get up there. We have the Jeffersons going on. They like feeling like we're moving on up. We're in this beautiful castle. I have all my favorite books, all the books I could ever read. I got all these, you know, amenities available to me. I have all of these clothes that fit me perfectly. They are in bliss. But last episode, you know, we left them off soaked in blood and sweat and walking and exhausted, and you know, we've been expecting you. I'm like, well, what? Something not adding up. But Uncle George's book after book, Letitia is trying on outfit after outfit after outfit, and they, you know, meet up in the hallway. And we are met back up with William. Now, William is chauffeur, doorman, boyfriend. William is something. But William is treating our guest, Tick, Uncle George, and Letitia, like family until Christina, the lady of the house, returns and, you know, can tell them more about where Montrose is, Tick's father. Now, you can tell he's alluding to a little, he's kind of being aloof to what's going on. Oh, I was just told to treat you guys like family. I was told, you know, spare no expense. Treat them like you would treat me. But where's your dad? How long it'll be? Where did they go? I don't know. They went to see a lawyer. They'll be back soon. I was just told to take care of you until otherwise. Letitia could care less. Uncle George could care less. They're just happy to be in the castle amongst their favorite things. Tick seems to be the only one investigating a little bit more, trying to see what is going on. And as they're walking through the castle, you see, you know, all this expensive art and just all the complete, first of all, it's a castle. You see the structure of the castle. These are very expensive things. So these people are very well off. Very well off. And Tick is just trying to wrap his mind around, why am I here? Where is my father? Why are you two acting like everything is okay? But we gosh, what is that? We get to a painting of Mr. Samuel Braithwaite. I think I'm saying Braithwaite. And they're talking about, you know, how he accommodated all this wealth. And she says, William says it's, you know, from years and years of, you know, shipping. And Letitia says, you know, that's code for slaves. We'll get back to that later. But as they sit down to have breakfast, Tick is investigating, like, I've never seen, we've never been, when have you ever been to a white person's house and they are, begging you to stay, treating you with such kindness? They want something. And Tick is like, here. Letty is like, let me get some salt, honey. I'm about to eat. White people don't be seasoning their food. Boop. But he's like, like, what is wrong with you two? Why am I the only one up in arms about everything that's going on here? They're like, why wouldn't we be? Someone's treating us with hospitality. Okay, well, what about last night? Well, what about last night? Because I don't really remember very much. Tick is the only one of the three who remembers the vampire, beast, pig-like creatures, the murder of the sheriff, the station wagon, Letty running for her life. Nobody remembers anything. Tick asks William, I would, like to walk the grounds if that's okay. Tick is just waiting for an opportunity for something to look astray, to go, aha, I knew you were up to something. But William's being cool, like, whatever you want to do, it's up to you. And Uncle George says, I'm with you, down for us to look around a little bit more and maybe search for, Montrose. And Tick goes, yeah, because we're going to split up. And Letitia goes, oh, no, we ain't splitting up. I was here for it. I was like, come on now. We all know what happens in horror movies when people split up. This is a horror movie. We don't split up. We Black people, we don't split up. But okay. But Uncle George says, he's been treating us with, the utmost respect and kindness. Let's not give him a reason not to. Like, let's not look suspicious. Tick goes on to talk about, everything that happened last night that they don't remember. And the station wagon being crashed. And, that's why they had to walk to even get to the castle. They're walking the grounds and, you see car after car after car. There is money, honey. And the station wagon is there in perfect condition. And before they can even blink, William is standing there. I'm like, okay, what kind of beneficent magic you got going? Like, he's just appearing from the looks of it. But he's like, yeah, it's right there. In a sense, trying to make Tick appear crazy. Especially since they don't remember anything. He's like, what did you do to it? What are you not telling us? Well, there was some blood in the front seat, but I had such and such get that out. The car's right here in perfect condition. Tick, Uncle George, and Letitia continue to search the grounds, walk around. They say that they're going to, walk into the nearest village. And, William advises them, go ahead, do whatever you need to do. Just make sure you're back before dark for dinner. Before dark. And he's walking. The more they walk, the crazier Tick begins to look. Because at this time, at this point, he's just almost heated. Like, why don't you remember? Why would I lie about that? What makes sense about all of you guys' clothes, fitting perfectly? All of your favorite books just happening to be here. What makes sense about that? What do I have to lie about? I'm not crazy. Now, they're very, reluctant because they don't remember anything. But as they're walking and searching, Letty and Uncle George, more so Letty, begins to think that, how many people did he kill over there? Like, maybe he's, struggling with some PTSD, war type syndrome. Maybe, maybe he's going a little crazy. There was blood in the front seat. I'm not crazy. I know what I'm talking about. It's just becoming a heated situation, and it's almost at about a 10, and then we hear that whistle blow from last night that he was just trying to explain to everyone. We were about to get attacked, we put all the flares out, and then this whistle blew and all the monsters disappeared. We hear the same whistle, and Tick is like scrounging, like, where is it? Because I'm heated. How dare you not remember? We almost died. They get there. Wait, before they even get there, I like the fact that it was like a domicile Amish weird looking village. Like, it looked like a whole different time period. And then we get the references, the kids running around, the like the wicker person. It looked like the Wicker Man. But okay, back to the story. So we get to the whistle, and this is when I was like, okay. We walk up on a woman who has like rabid, angry dogs. And before she even opened her mouth, I was like, this is very reminiscent of like a slave catcher. The way she was dressed, her demeanor, I think she might have been chewing on straw. She was blowing that whistle. She looked like a slave catcher, which went hand in hand with what she had to say. But, you know, Tick is mad, you know, like, where'd you get that whistle? It was you. Where'd you get it? And they're like trying to talk to her. Tick, you know, more hasty because he's upset at this point. But they can't even really just get a word in because her dogs are like barking. Like, if she would have let them loose, they would have attacked them. She stops as soon as they say, you know, we're a guest of Mr. Braithwaite. Yep. Well, you know, you don't really look like the typical guest that he would have. Like, they don't entertain no black people. What y'all doing here? But okay. She calls off the dogs, and Uncle George begins to kind of investigate, you know, like, what is this? Is this, you know, this is the police station, right? And she's like, no, this is storage for all of the town's meat. And Uncle George goes, well, yeah, you know, you guys are known for grizzlies, right? And she's like, not quite grizzlies, but, you know, we mostly get black bears. She was about to have me heated, y'all, because I was like, girl, if you get your ass out of here. But she says, you know, it's mostly, you know, the black bears. Not the it was referenced as black bears, and then she just cut it short at blacks. And she goes, you know, they're smart, they're clever, they're mischievous, they're beast, they're persistent, and they never quite know when to mind their business. She said all this rhetoric, dressed like a slave catcher, holding those two rabid dogs that slave catchers would use to hunt slaves down. I was like, I see what y'all trying to do. Okay. Now, after all this, you know, heated discussion, she even tells them, you guys better get back for dinner before dark. So she even knows about the dinner before they do. She even knows. But by the time, you know, they're walking and going, it's getting darker and darker and darker. Even before that, Tick and George had a discussion about the stone-like building probably being more hollow at the bottom and having a dungeon, and saying that that's probably where his dad Montrose is being held. But they're walking, it's getting darker. Uncle George stops in his tracks, and he says he remembers a story that Tick's mom told him about his, you know, great grandmother being a slave. And Tick just, what do you mean? She never told us, you know, anything about her past or about her history, and she told you? Well, yeah, she was ashamed of it, but her grandmother, Hannah, ran through these woods trying to, pregnant ran through these woods trying to escape from her slave master, Mr. Braithwaite, who was known for being notoriously kind to his slaves. Now, okay, well, let me wait on that. It's just so much, y'all. It's so much. But, you know, like, she told you. She never told us anything. But, just as, you know, they're having this revelation, and, you know, lady says, you know, she has to be a brave woman to run through these woods. Beast number one, beast number two, shoot 'em up. And we're under, I'm like, y'all just gonna be on the brink of death the whole show. You know, they come up and they're about to attack. I don't know why they looked bigger than they did last episode. Like they were towering over the group a whole lot more than I felt like they were last episode. But you know, they're about to attack, and we get the white woman, Christina, the woman of the house, digging in the scene with the silver gangster-lean car, pimp daddy hat, red lipstick, ice me out blonde hair, pulls up, blows that whistle, and go right back into the ground. And you know, she instructs what's her slave catcher, she's just gonna be slave catcher, to you know, get them back to the cabin, and that she was gonna take Tick to meet with her father. So we finally get to see Christina's father, the man of the house, Mr. Braithwaite, and it's Fitz. I was like, oh, Fitz. After all those years of Scandal, which I abruptly stopped watching, like after they killed off Columbus Short and how that storyline was going, I like stopped watching. Like, in anything I see him in, he's just Fitz. Fitz is the dad. So this whole commentary, he's gonna be Fitz. It's Fitz, and he's getting something removed, an organ removed, and you know, stitched back up. And you know, it's this very intense pulsating as the man doing the surgery walks by him, like Tick is waiting, like, are you guys gonna attack me? What are you gonna do? Oh my God, nothing. But they kind of get into what he's there for. And he tells, you know, this whole spew about the Bible and the Garden of Eden, and him wanting to be that Adam and be there for the first, you know, creation. And he wants to get back to that pivotal moment when things were made. And he feels like Tick, being a descendant, can get him back there, back to this descendant part. So Grandma Hannah was running from a master in the woods pregnant. For Tick to be a descendant means she was raped by her slave master, Mr. Braithwaite. I don't know if I'm not gonna. Those were my initial thoughts, but for him to be a descendant at all, that, you know, that link in the chain, that bloodline had to trickle down from somewhere. I'm thinking that was where it's from. But Tick is, you know, like, I don't want any part of this. I just want my father. I just want to go. He's not trying to hear it. Silence. I don't want to see him into, you know, the ceremony. And they begin to kind of separate them off into different links. Letty's in her room, Uncle George is in his room, and now Tick trapped in his room. He's been escorted to his room by Miss Christina, who's like, you know, you don't want to ask me anything? It's like, why? You guys haven't told me anything since I've got here. Why would you be honest right now? And she's like, oh, well, don't I get some credit, you know, for saving you guys' lives? Like, you know, whatever. I'm not trying to hear that. I want to know where my father is, and I want to know what you did to my friends, and what did you do to my family? She's like, well, what do you mean? It's a spell. It's a spell. Tick is bad. And she's like, yep, it is. Well, you know, if you want, you know, something out of me, you got to give something to give something. Maybe I'll cooperate a little bit more if you take that spell off my family and tell me where my dad is. And she's like, okay, done. And you just hear all these like screams of terror, like, oh gosh, because the spell was cast once again. They had just, you know, encountered the beast yet again. Forgot just that quickly. But now everybody remembers. Everybody's like clamoring, trying to get out. There are transparent barriers, magical barriers, stopping everyone from getting out. So everybody's kind of left to their own vices. This when stuff gets extra, y'all. Now we cut to Uncle George's room, who, you know, has the whole library set up. He goes and pulls out a single book, and it's a secret passageway to an even bigger library with more books than you could ever see. And there's a certain books, these books about, the group's bylaws that just happens to be on the table with the magnifying glass. Someone left it there for him to find it. It was out, prompt, and ready to read. Now you cut to Letitia's. They're all like in these kind of like fantasy turned nightmares. Letitia is, in her room, and Tick pops up. We know that it's not Tick because Tick couldn't even get out of his own room. But, let's get out of here. It's like, no, they have us surrounded. And they get off into, the prayer that she said and, why she said it, which gives us a little bit more insight on why she didn't make it to her mother's funeral, because her mom wasn't the best mom. She goes into this story of, I remember just sitting and waiting for my mom to come back, because she would leave me for long periods of time, and I would just be waiting, repeating this prayer over and over and hoping that she would come back. And Tick says, I would never do that. I would never leave you. I'm here for you. And we get into, this passion, this kissing, and I'm like, yeah, this isn't real. Like, because we see the fire happening, but a lot of times they take forever to, you really, really want two characters to finally get together, and they take forever to make that shit happen. I was like, but as they're getting into it, and even with them talking, you see this stained glass window, and there's Adam and Eve on it, but the snake looks to be Adam's penis. And then we cut and zoom over to Uncle George's room, who's, further and further investigating. He's read these books, and he gets a vision of Tick's mother, who was bad. I was like, okay, I see your yellow dress. She looked good in that yellow dress. But she's, luring him over, trying to lure him from, investigating more, reading more. And she, they're going and talking, and they're reminiscing over old times, everything to allude to this being actually her, even though Uncle George is repeating to himself, you're not real. This isn't you. You're not real. But, they're slow dancing. But, they're moving. They're slow dancing. They're reminiscing and going back. Oh, you remember that time you and Montrose, like, I'm like, nobody's going to talk about the mom kind of being a little hoish. Nobody's gonna bring that up. Like, you slept with two brothers, had a baby by one, went to the younger brother and got him to raise the baby that's the older brother's. Okay, if y'all not gonna break it up, I'm not gonna break it up. But at this point, he's already got a message, kind of like a Morse code type situation, from Tick in the other room, and he's dropped everything. What if we could stay here forever? This is when we get into the story, because she says, that's you, always wrapped up in a book, always wrapped up in a good story. What is this one about? And he goes through everything that's happened. These family on the road encounter these pig-like creatures, and a man, meaning him, he meets up with his long lost love. And she says, do they stay together? And he says, yes, because the house collapses on them. Put a pin in that. Collapsed. But, she's like, it could be like this. You could fly with your children. Uncle George, steps away. At this point, we move over to Tick's room, who was, giving his Morse code, and a whole Korean War woman leaps out and attacks him. And he knows her by name and says, I don't want to hurt you. And she's, speaking in a language, I don't know. And, they're fighting, they're going at it. And it's a very, very big struggle. And it kind of looks like, she's getting the best of Tick at first, because he doesn't want to hurt her, but he's fighting because, he doesn't want to die either. That's going on. Uncle George is having his complex. Then we cut back over to Letitia, who is, things are getting a little bit further along with with Tick. And, you know, she goes, you know, she's like, oh, no, wait. He unbuckles these pants anyway. And a whole snake comes out, y'all. A whole snake. You know, she's fighting for her life. Uncle George is fighting his emotions from his long lost love. And Tick is fighting a whole warrior, like a whole soldier. All this is going on. Letitia fights off and stabs Tick. Uncle George walks away from, you know, Tick's mother. And Tick murders the woman. And everybody's just sitting there, just grasping like, oh my God, like, is this real? Is this fake? Why are they doing this to us? And then they zoom out, and there's a whole, you know, there's onlookers just watching. All white, watching and having, you know, a whole kiki at this debauchery going on. Christina is then called away to give birth to one of these pig-like beast shabagat creatures from a cow. What? It's like, so are they being used to, you know, carry these? Because if you bite a person, they turn. But I guess they're giving birth and like you're using these to produce more. It looked gross. Whatever it was, it looked gross. But anyway, we cut back from that, and William, yet again, he goes to, you know, pull them out of the room and tell them that they've been invited to a black tie affair, but that it's, you know, men only. Everybody is shook at this point because, you know, they've gone through their own obstacles in their own room. And Tick goes, you know, Uncle George, who did they make you see? You know, Uncle George, you know, Uncle George, it doesn't matter. Like, we ain't talking about that. And he says, I love the way he says, you know, Letitia fucking Lewis. That it just gets me. Letitia fucking Lewis. But he goes, you know, you don't get scared. This is what they want. They want to see us break. They want to break us down. Well, I tell you, this show, like, hold on. Oh, my scalp. But, you know, he goes, you know, they want to, you know, make us crazy. They want to terrorize us. Who is they, Uncle George? I mean, we know who the they is. We know who the they is for them. But, like, we all have a they. Right now, there's a lot of they. It's like, here we come with the heavy LoveCraft country. And, you know, like, don't let them break you. And he goes, you know, I might have a way out of this. Get very sharp and debonair in their suits. Sit down. William leans in. Just because they don't want you here doesn't mean you don't belong. You see all this comment that they try to sprinkle in here? Just because they don't want you here doesn't mean you don't belong here. Y'all belong here just as much as they do. Now, is it me or is something, you know, kind of popping off with William? William is kind of, he's there and he's kind, but not like in the condescending way. I feel like William left that book there for Uncle George. I feel like he's trying to make something happen. He's not agreeing with everything that's going on, and he's trying to push something. I feel like he left that book there and he's kind of leaning more towards their side. Why? I don't know. Did he leave the book there? Who knows? But as Uncle George, you know, stood up about the book and, you know, there's something here, William was right there like, I feel like he left the book. But they sit down and, you know, he goes over, Mr. Braithwaite, the father, Fitz, goes over, you know, about the book and tradition and, you know, with, you know, tradition, I'd like to follow some of that and give you guys, you know, some of my body. And proceeds to feed these people whatever organ was taken from him, and things like, don't eat that. Don't eat that. Uncle George then begins to stand up and goes over the bylaws and, him being the organization he's a part of and mercenaries and tradition and how they wouldn't let the founder in because he was a black man, and go on to say that there's, a chain of command as far as descent in the bloodline and who controls what, and says that since Tick is the strongest of the descent, he has the strongest relation to the bloodline, he has the power to ask everyone to leave, which he does twice, and they only pretty much leave because Mr. Fitz gives the okay. But, kind of feeling himself like, all right, take me to my father. And, this is when we get into the dialogue, y'all. As if we didn't have enough with they want to see us crazy, they want to terrorize us. Just because they don't want you here doesn't mean you don't belong here. Then, hold on, goodness. We get into Fitz, Mr. Braithwaite, in his dialogue, because he's, at this point, Tick has stood up like, okay, everybody's left. Now I want you to take me to my father. And he goes, this whole performance of tradition and giving up my body, this is as far as tradition goes for me. I can care less what it says in that book and, less about your descent. He says that Tick is tainted. His blood is tainted and diluted, but he still has use for him in the work that he has to do. Your blood is tainted and diluted. He said it with such disgust, but I still have a need for you for the work that I have to do. But don't mistake a need for indisposable. Diluted. You know how far that runs? You're now tainted and diluted. Who made us tainted and diluted? But I still have a need for you for the work that I need to be done. Wow. Ain't that the truth? I still have a need for you. But don't mistake it for you're completely disposable. But I have a need for you, even though I don't like you. Now, after all this spew of being diluted and I really don't need you, but I really do, he takes him to his father. Takes him to where his father is being held. He is being held where they thought he was, in the, large stone-like building underneath in the dungeon. Go down there, he's nowhere to be found, but his flask's there. Here comes old slave catcher, ready to shoot somebody. Before she could even get, all that spew out, Letty comes and hits her in the face. Where's Montrose? They allude to his favorite book, which I'm thinking is kind of like an Escape from Alcatraz type book, because he has tunneled his way out of the dungeon. He sat there and dug, handcuffed, and we get this shot of Montrose, who is Michael K. Williams. Yo, Omar coming out of the ground like to freedom. Y'all, it was very much so like a slave, like getting to freedom. The way he came out of the ground, he looked very much, it didn't just look like handcuff shackles. It looked like slave shackles. I don't know if it was just from the dirt, but it just looked like a freedom moment. And then we have, Nina Simone, Blackbird in the background, which was great. And he's like, whew, finally turn around, and they're just standing there. Oh my God, son, brother, what the hell y'all doing here? Honorary, I don't need you to save me. I can save my damn self. It's like, well, you know, you wrote me this letter. I came here. Oh, I never thought you would be dumb enough to follow a letter I wrote under duress. I haven't written you in years. Why would I write you now? Like, you mother. And they're just standing there like, we did all this for you. And you, he did say so. I was like, you know, how far were you going to get, especially with all this mystical magic going on here? But, you know, can we fucking go? Letitia fucking Lewis. They get in the car and Uncle George is in the back seat kind of going over, you know, this is what's going on and this is the background. I read this in the book and this is the descent, and kind of getting Montrose up to speed. Now, I don't know why with everything that's been going on, all the magic, boom, bop, pow, going on, that they thought they were just gonna drive off into the sunset. Like, maybe if we just make it out of Artem past that bridge barrier, we'll be okay. Nope. That same transparent shield completely smashes that platinum silver car that they stole. Wrecks it. They are stopped. Soon as they get out of the car, and I love when they got out of the car, we have this wonderful, I'm like, only LoveCraft country are we gonna go from Blackbird by Nina Simone, and then we crash the car and get into Marilyn Manson. Bum as fuck. I mean, bum is amazing. But they get out and the car is crashed. Mr. Fitz and his daughter are standing there. As soon as they get out, shoots Letty in the stomach. What? Shoots Letty in the stomach. I was like, they gonna take her out? Like I'm gonna have to get out of, like, oh man, is this it? Clearly this is a this it type of show. They could be, it's so much going on, like you can't even guarantee that someone is dead. Someone that has died is just really dead. We don't know. But he shoots her in the stomach. Of course, you know, this breaks Tick. We clearly see that he loves Letitia. Like, come on. And he's, you know, help her, do something, do something, Christina, help me. She's just standing there, and by this time Uncle George has gotten out, and he goes, you know, I'm going to give you a choice of, you know, which one you want me to save. We blink out on him pointing in a direction and shooting Uncle George. Whoa. But I was, you know, abruptly taken out of my shot. All the, you know, the shock, like, damn, he just shot Letitia and Uncle George. Then we go right into ass. I was like, okay. Jonathan Major's Tick was looking kind of good, getting his little wipe off, you know. I was like, who he shot again? You know, wipe that a little saliva. Who he shot again? But, you know, okay, he's, you know, getting his, he's getting cleaned up for the ceremony. You know, at this point, he's covered in Letitia's blood and probably Uncle George's too. And Christina is sitting there and going over, you know, you know, what's necessary and it's needed. And, you know, if you go through with this ceremony, we see, you know, that same transparency. I guess she was letting him see, allowing him to see through a wall. And we see, you know, Letitia get right back up. Wounds gone, blood is like it never happened. And, you know, if you go through with this ceremony, we can do the same thing for Uncle George. And, you know, lets him know that the goal is to get back to that moment at the Garden of Eden. We think with, you know, your descent, your bloodline, the man who was actually, you know, had a hand in it, and, you know, opening this portal before, I'm guessing, we can get that again. If not, Uncle George gonna bleed on out. Then she goes, you know, holding this ring, and which was another commentary in itself. I could never get one of these. You just get one of these for being a man. Female empowerment, woo woo. But girl, no, you can go. You on the wrong side. But Tick, kind of gives it back to her, like, it's not called the Daughters of Adam. Like, you're not getting any of this. Your dad clearly cares nothing about you, but yet you still aid him in this. And she's like, she gives it right back. Yes, our horrible fathers owe the mistreatment, but we always come running when they call. And Tick's like you. I did come running by mistake. So we cut back over to Letty getting up. She's getting herself washed off. She likes to give off that strong, empowered energy. So she's furious and scared and screaming, but she doesn't want anyone else to hear. So she's muffling them because she's washing blood off. Like, I was just dead. What the heck is going on? Now, unlike Letitia, Uncle George is still very much bleeding out, about to die. And we see that even though Montrose can be a little heartless and mean at times and has a temper and may have been abusive and maybe an alcoholic, he still very much cares about his brother. Because Uncle George goes, you need to see if you can maybe get that window up. At least you and the girl could get out. And Montrose goes, she doesn't seem like the girl you would tell what to do. And I'm not leaving here without you. I'm not going anywhere without you, George. So there is some compassion there. But as soon as Uncle George gets to trying to tell him about, Tick, and he needs to show him more love before it's too late. I've seen that side of you when we were children. It's there. It's like, you don't tell me what to do with my son. I told you about not, telling me what I need to do for my son. It's my son. Well, he might not be yours. Why are you bringing up old shit? Like we discussed, we would never bring that up. Why are you bringing that up? And Uncle George is like, this could be it. I feel like I've been quiet for too long. These things need to be said. We cut back to the ceremony. And Tick has on this, this brown robe situation. All the members have surrounded in these hooded robes, and about them hooded robes, right? And they're commencing with the ceremony. We see all this electricity start and all these volts and things go through Atticus' body, and we get into, I don't know, Ade, Dube, Dumbula. I don't know. Give me the power, I beg of you. I don't know. He gets into this, this whole spell to open that door to the Garden of Eden. And we see it going, and you can see that it's, it's kind of painful for Atticus, and it's starting, to shake the house. Things are starting to unravel. He still keeps going. Ade, Dube, Dumbula. He's still going. And I'm like, okay. But you kind of see this portal start to open, and you see, flowers blooming and grass growing and weeds and vines. That, Eden situation, garden. And by this time, the house is starting to collapse. The house is starting to collapse. And you see Letitia, Uncle George, and Montrose, trying to make their way out, because the door finally opens, because, all the guards are, dropped, because the magic is gone. At this part, like, Tick is, whatever's inside of him is overpowering everything that's going on. All those barriers. And, he says, if I move him, he's going to bleed out. But they have to move him anyway, because things are starting to crumble. We're still Abe, Dube, Dumbula. The portal begins to open a whole lot more. And we see what looks to be Hannah, his mother's grandmother, standing there pregnant. And the dad, Fitz, turns into stone. He turns into stone. I was so glad, because I was like, are we going to get a whole show of him? Because it's just something about Fitz's face. I don't know if it's just from Scandal. I don't want to see this man's face for a whole season. But he turns into stone, and he, burst, and the men are trying to run away. They turn into stone and burst. The house begins to fall. The grandma runs out like she's running out of the door, and it looks like Tick is chasing her also, but he's trying to get away and run out the door too. She takes one last look back and, disappears. Tick makes it out of the house by, the skin of his teeth, and it all just collapses to the ground. Now, mind you, in Uncle George's story, do the lovers, long lost loves, get to stay together? Yes, they do, because the house collapses on them. We get out there, we're happy, we're outside, but we're even happier because we see, my family made it out. We're okay. Letitia walks up, gives him a hug, and does not say a word. But in not saying a word, she says everything she needs to say. I'm okay. Uncle George didn't make it. We know Uncle George didn't make it before he even gets to the car. But when he gets to the car, it's like, no, y'all, not the second episode. Like, just keep y'all foot on people's necks, why don't you? We see that Uncle George has not made it, and immediately Tick takes on, all this guilt. I'm sorry, Uncle George. I'm sorry. And he's, breaking down. Dad, Montrose's brother, he's sitting there. He's holding him, and he doesn't say a word. And Tick just breaks down. Like, oh, man. Great acting, because I was about to break with him. Oh, man. But, that's where the episode leaves off, and we hopefully get to see, what happens in episode 3. Is Uncle George really dead? With everything that is going on within the show, all the magic, all the... You never know. You never know. But, that was, I also love that when we got into Abe Dube Dumbula, the ceremony, Gil Scott, his, Whitey's on the Moon, his dialogue, the song started playing. That was great. The song choices in the show are great altogether. But that was the show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Episode 2, Whitey's on the Moon. I look forward to giving you guys episode 3. Subscribe. Hello. You should have did it before you even watched the video, but if you didn't, go do it now. I see you guys next video.